this time. These are the best days of our lives. Let's raise
your glasses
high. This one's for you tonight.
How's it going, guys? It's Joshie from the SUR Files here. Welcome to episode 22 of the SUR Files here on this lovely Friday, August 14, 2026. It's yours truly, the nefarious one, Brother Adam, aka Joshie Lopez. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. Thank you so much for your continued support for this project as we are slowly chirping away with all these episodes. We're now at episode 22. These weeks keep going on and flying by. And a little bittersweet knowing that next week will probably be the last week where I'll be talking about the Valley for a while, because it'll be part 3 of the reunion. We're going to get into part 2 today. I went on a pretty extensive initial rant after watching it on our TikTok page at SUR Files. By the way, if you want to check that out, I do initial recaps of the Valley right as it gets off the air, and I did that this past Wednesday after watching part 2. And to say that I was seething and livid would be an understatement. I haven't done a rant like that in a while, probably since my wrestling podcasting days, and a lot of what I sat through on Wednesday did not set well with me on a personal level. And I'm going to try to be more guarded today and have more of a nuanced conversation with you guys about it today. There's a lot of people that have a lot of thoughts. It's not just me who feels how I feel about what happened on Wednesday, aka the Lala Kent show. So we're going to get into that in a couple minutes. But first, I want to say, first and foremost, as always, I appreciate the support. If you guys are checking us out on YouTube at the SUR Files, please do us a favor and hit that like button and smash the subscribe button. Not only if you hit the like button, it helps expand the reach of our show to other people, but also at the same point, we're on the road to 100 subscribers. Currently, we're at 54. We appreciate the folks who that do chime in. I do see the membership going up here and there. And a little update on the YouTube channel. I've uploaded my first initial recaps of House Stasi on the YouTube channel. So those initial recap review videos that I did on TikTok, I added that to our YouTube page at the SUR Files on YouTube. So subscribe there. All content will be going there. Also, our recap of Vanderpump Rules, once I choose and went to decide to do this full rewatch of VPR. I got a lot of stuff going on outside of this project in my personal life and stuff like that, so I'm trying to find the right time and place to start mapping out how I want to go about the rewatch experience of VPR. And we're going to start all the way from the beginning, but I have some plans, and I want to go about it the right way, because it's going to be pretty extensive. We're not going to have much to discuss as far as new content's concerned, because obviously House of Stasi season 1's already all out there for everybody to see on Hulu and Freeform. The next thing I'll have to wait for live commentary or reaction to will probably be whenever Lisa Vanderpump's Vegas Vanderpump, whatever she's going to call it, show that she filmed for Bravo. I don't think it's season 13 of Vanderpump Rules, but I think they did say something about Lisa having a exclusive show about the process of making the Vanderpump Hotel. I will probably cover that for sure. And then we'll see what else is on the docket, you know. I could come in here and give you a little brief updates of what's going on with the cast, podcast stuff, maybe do some interviews along the way. Who knows? Who knows when they're going to start shooting season 4 of The Valley. So we'll have things to discuss as always. I'm not going to go on a vacation because The Valley's over. Trying to expand my catalog here on the SUR Files, trying to make the best out of this whole situation. But this is really a home and a hub for all Vanderpump Rules fans and the Valley fans, since the Valley is a spin-off of Vanderpump Rules. And yeah, you know, I have wondered a lot about like how this project is coming off to other people, and I do admit that I struggle with self-doubt at times, and it's not easy for me at times to even record the initial videos because at times I don't want to deal with the negative comments or how somebody's going to perceive me just off the way I look and stuff like that. That's something that I struggle with internally, or even, as long as I've been a broadcaster and as long as I've been a media member, even still, when I press that record button, hit that red button, and we go live, or as I'm recording the podcast right now, I get nervous. I don't know how this is going to come off to people. I hope that when you check out the SUR Files on TikTok or the YouTube page or even this podcast here, that it's an enjoyable experience for you. I hope I come off well. I've been trying to do some TikTok lives over the last couple of weeks, trying to connect and interact and answer questions for the folks that have supported the page, and trying to open myself up more to the community. I'm entering a new world. I was in a wrestling bubble for a long period of time, and getting to ingratiate myself into a new space with new people can be difficult at times. And you never know if people are just going to perceive you on the way you talk, or how you look. More times than not in my general life, I don't really care how people think about me. I feel like I'm a good judgment of character, and I do right by the people that do right by me. I'm not gonna go out of my way to try to prove myself to anybody. I feel that my consistency and my work ethic should speak enough for that, and how I go about treating people the same way should speak to that too. And I do speak off the cuff. I'm not afraid to hide my opinions. At the same time, I'm not going to ever expect anybody to feel like they have to agree with everything I say, especially when it's on this podcast, or even when I do a rant like I did on Wednesday night on a TikTok video. I just hope, that when you do check out the SUR Files, that it's a positive, like, mental escape for you. Like, you guys can have fun reminiscing on the old clips here and there, and that you're having a good time with it. I had somebody message me the other day saying that I'm a Danny Booko defender, and that I enable toxic guys with red flags and horrible behavior and things like that. And it's just like, one, it's not true. If anybody has listened to this podcast or any of the initial recaps I've done on the Valley this season, to know the fact that I've more gone on my way to point out the fact that I don't like the way he speaks to his wife and how he carried himself this season. And as I've always said on the show, I feel like I'm a broken record at times when I say this line, but it's true. Two things can be true. I can hold somebody accountable, but I'm not going to get to the point where I start defaming somebody's character as a human being. This stuff is not that deep. I'm only going off of what I see on my television screens. I'm not in this person's shoes. I don't know what these couples' dynamics are off the air, nor am I going to try to guess or assume. That's not my place to do that. I have my opinions on the show. They are what they are, whether you agree with it or not. But to come at me in a DM and say that I'm a Danny defender and that I enable narcissists and et cetera, or I gave props to like Joshie Lopez the other day on the TikTok page for how he's been composed compared to the back and forth tick and tack stuff that he was doing with Michelle during last season's reunion, right, of the Valley. And I was giving credit for, he's had his moments where he's had to respond back, because Michelle, this whole reunion, has been just an absolute mess, if I'm being honest with you, just from overall performance of it all. Like, I know she's not performing, but she can't deny these allegations about being fake and lying and, deflecting and being a projector. Like, she just can't deny that. She can't. I'm going to get into it once we get into the recap for part 2 of the reunion. But I'm giving props to Jesse along the way and just giving him, because while he's talking, you get these shots of Janet side-eyeing him and Lala murmuring shit on her breath, and same thing with Michelle. And you're trying to explain your thought. Your girlfriend is getting constantly interrupted every time she speaks. I'm sure that'd be interesting, and I'm pretty sure that Jesse, and maybe again I relate to him on a level because we're both Tauruses, but we also could fire back swiftly too if we wanted to, if somebody's going to try to make us look bad in the situation. And the worst thing you could do is try to pick an argument, a battle, or debate with a Taurus that has receipts and a good memory. So I was just giving Jesse props for his composure. Jesse has not been a saint on this show. I haven't condoned every single thing that he does. Do I admire Joshie Lopez? Do I think he's a cool dude? Do I think he's somebody I would want to hang out with? Absolutely. I don't run for that fact. At the same time, for somebody, the same person to say, oh, you defend Jesse, he's a monster, he doesn't care about his ex-wife, and he's a terrible father. All of those stuff is not true. You're projecting how somebody is on what you see on a television show. I could come on here and outright say that, for example, I don't condone any man, whether you're in a relationship, marriage, or whatever the fuck, sibling dynamic, you do not talk down to women the way Danny does to his wife this season, right? At the same time, I can also say I don't condone this high school ass behavior that we've seen from Lala, Michelle, Janet, and especially Brittany this season. I'm not going to come in here and make grand conclusions of who these people are on this show. I want to make that perfectly clear. Do I disagree with some of their tactics? Yeah, and I'll say it perfectly and out loud. I don't run from anything I have to say. Anything I'm saying here, I would say directly to them if I was talking to them right now. I'm not doing this to curry favor with the cast or, I'm not doing this for attention. I'm speaking off the cuff, and I'm speaking how I generally feel from watching the show, just like anybody else would, just like any other media member would. Yeah, there's people that have agendas, etc., etc. I'm new to this Bravo space. I'm pretty sure a lot of you will look at the stuff I share and be like, man, Josh, you really have it on for Lala and Janet, and oh, you're just a Team Kristen defender, and etc., etc. The only team that I'm on, if you want my honest opinion, if I ever felt like I needed to get to that point, would be Lacey, because one, she's a good person, and two, I just gravitate to people who are pure and genuine and don't take shit from anybody. So if I'm on anybody's team, it would be Lacey. But just because I don't come on here and recite the same insults that Janet and Lala throw at Danny's direction every time I do a review of The Valley does not mean that I condone his behavior. I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm not going to come on here and say that this guy is an abuser and that this guy is not worthy of having his wife or his kids, or saying that he sexually assaults people. I'm not going to do that. One, is ignorant. It's not my place to say shit like that when I don't have all the facts of the situation. And three, it's just flat out ignorant. I'm not going to say something out of bounds or without any substance attached to it. That's the difference. I don't have it out personally for Lala or Janet. As I've said all season, I have been genuinely disappointed more than anything, and more frustrated from that disappointment when it comes to what I've seen from Lala and Janet this season. I wanted Lala to do well this season, and yeah, she has deserved her credit for speaking her mind. While do I feel it was in the right time and place to do those certain things? No. Maybe outside the San Diego trip, but what really flipped the script with me with Lala is more of the shit talking behind Nia's back, and then as we were getting on with the season, especially during that Mexico trip, that's when things started to just turn me the other way, because I was really excited to see Lala join this cast. Everybody was like, no, don't have Lala on the show. She's just going to ruin it for everybody. And it's not going to be good. And I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I said this before, like, I agreed. It was controversial, but she spoke from her heart, and she spoke her mind during that season 11 reunion. And basically, you know, I don't disagree with how she felt about the whole situation. That's her perspective. That's her truth. Again, a lot of you guys, a lot of the Bravo community have blinders and play favorites and teens and stuff like that. Like, again, even for somebody who wrote a project about Scandival, I'm not Team Tom. I'm not Team Ariana, nor was I ever Team Rachel either. So I'll see comments whenever I share something from Rachel Leviss, like, oh, you know that she's still suing Ariana for revenge porn. One, it's none of my business. Two, I don't care. And three, this topic is 3 years ago. I'm sharing something productive of her changing her life and doing a sound bath journey. I'm not going to come on and try to police people in the comment section on TikTok unless it's something that I see negatively towards Jasmine in a race situation, because I don't tolerate that shit on any level, subtly or not. I don't condone racism or, you know, anybody making stupid comments towards her or Jasmine for them being part of the LGBTQ community. I don't stand for that shit. I don't. Outside of that, I'll give, or, you know, people speaking down on people's kids. Like, those are my three. There's four main things for me in life that I will not ever tolerate. Obviously, abuse on any level, domestic or sexual, racism, this derogatory comments for the LGBT community, and then slander on other people's kids. I will never tolerate that shit on TikTok or this podcast or in general life. I will never condone that stuff. So going back to the stuff with Lala, I was more disappointed, guys. I don't hate her. I'm not saying that she's a horrible person or a terrible mom or anything like that. I don't feel that way, nor I would ever say anything like that. I can have a disagreement. It's my opinion that her, Janet, Michelle, and Brittany have had a high school-ass girl, mean girl style hive mentality this season. That's just my opinion. You may disagree. I share a lot of stuff from her podcast. I support her Untraditionally Lala show. I enjoy listening to it when her and Easton record every week. I support her doing her project with Amber Childers with Unlikely Affair. I think that's a great concept of, you know, terrible circumstances, but they ended up becoming really good friends, and they have a deep bond with each other now. I think that's great. And I think Amber Childers is awesome. Just because I disagree with what I've seen from Lala this season, and I'm going to be critical about her today as we get into this review for the reunion part 2. Just because I feel that way does not mean that I don't care about Lala or I have this personal agenda against her or anything like that, or even against Janet. Like, again, I'm going off of what I see on television. If I hung out with Janet and Jason in person, I probably would have a good time and we'd probably have good conversations and et cetera, et cetera. It's not my expectation to do the show to be becoming friends with these people. If it happens, great. If I get a chance to interview them and have a good conversation, spark a good dialogue, and yeah, can we be friendly and cordial towards each other? Great. That'd be awesome. But I'm not doing this for that. I'm not doing this to seek clout. I want to make that clear. Nor am I doing these reviews or podcasts to denigrate or make these people's lives more difficult than it needs to be. Like, it's very vulnerable, and it's very commendable for a lot of these people that open up, their insecurities and their dark moments in their life and their relationships and their marriages on worldwide television. I admire a lot of these people on this cast. I am never going to go on my way to condemn somebody to the point of being a useless human being outside when they do something that has to be called out, like how Jax was during last season of The Valley. That shit's not acceptable. It's not. I've never condoned or enabled what happened with the whole Scandival thing. Tom fucked up. He dropped the ball with one of the most beautiful and genuinely good people on God's green earth. He fucked up. I can admit that. So for anybody to come at me and say that I enable narcissists and bad behavior from toxic men, that really just set me off, because one, that's not true. That's not who I was raised to be. And thirdly, and most importantly, I have no problem holding people accountable when they need to be held accountable. So for you to even attempt to say that I enable Danny and that I'm a Danny defender and et cetera, it's just pure and utter bullshit. And I just have to be honest with that. There's going to be a lot of times where you guys may agree or disagree with what I have to say with the show, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to tell you how to fan when it comes to watching Bravo or reality television. Like I said earlier, it's not that deep. We're watching a TV show. So it's not like once I'm done recording the podcast or whenever I post something on TikTok, this stuff is not on my mind all day long, 24/7, like a lot of you were during Scandival. I have to be honest with you. A lot of you guys had Tom Sandoval derangement syndrome for multiple years, and I get it. He messed up. But I like to give people empathy and grace. I don't want him moving on for the rest of his life having Scandival hanged over his head every time he blinks his eye or every time he takes a breath. The guy deserves to move on. And I don't want this season, again, to be a reflection of who Danny Booko is as a person. Does he need to have a serious moment to sit down and reevaluate things within himself as far as how he goes about his alcohol intake and, more importantly, his communication styles with his wife, whether he's sober or not? Absolutely. That DM that I got the other day just did not sit right with me, because that's not who I am as a person. I come on here, I give my takeaways of the show, and I'm very honest, and I speak from the cup. I don't come up with a script or anything like that. I just speak from my heart. And I try my best to make this a good experience for everybody. We're talking about a show that can get very dark, and there's some real life issues. And, that comes with some passion and fiery debates. There's good and bad that comes with doing content like this. I know what I'm getting myself into. So I didn't want this to be a super long monologue, but I wanted to express that fact to you guys, because this is supposed to be a fun project, and I'm not gonna make everybody happy with what I say, but for anybody that ever thinks that they're gonna come at me and say that I play favorites and that I have a personal agenda against Lala and that I enable toxic male behavior, it's just bullshit. You don't know me, and just because I hold her accountable for her mean girl tactics and, trying to act like her shit don't stink. I'm sorry. If that upsets you that I say that Lala's a walking contradiction, that's a you problem, man. That's not on me. So we're going to take a break here. When we come back, I'll recap part 2 of the reunion of The Valley Season 3 right here on episode 22 of the SUR Files. We'll be right back. Welcome back to SUR Files, everybody. Episode 22. Time to recap The Valley Season 3 Reunion Part 2. How did you guys feel about this Part 2? Hit me up in the comments section down below on YouTube or on the podcast platforms you choose to check out this podcast. We have a smorgasbord of places where you can check out the SUR Files, especially on TikTok at SUR Files. And also, don't forget, the home of the SUR Files is Odyssey. Shout out to the folks at the Odyssey Creator Lab for having us on their platforms. We appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk about these shows each and every single week. Okay, so it's Friday. I've had 48 hours to process everything I saw from Part 2, and again, I didn't want another Lala Kent show at a reunion. I like to think in life you could give people the opportunity and time and space to grow and learn from their mistakes. But I said it last week and I'll say it right now. Reunions and Lala Kent are just not a good combination. I know I'm going to have a lot of Lala defenders coming at me, blah, 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 blah. I really don't care at this point. What happened on Wednesday was just so fucking ridiculous to the point that I don't know why Andy Cohen did not tell her to stop interjecting. You remember when Kristen was doing that? I think this was like the reunion, like season 3 or 4, something like that, when she was done with James. It was either, no, I remember which reunion it was. It was 6 and 7. When Kristen still had the issues with James, and she would still make snarky comments whenever Tom Sandoval would talk. And he's like, Kristen, you're chiming in every single time they're talking. And I think he even did it to Lala during the season 10 reunion. Yeah, you're right. You do talk a lot, and you do love the sound of your own voice. But as I said in the beginning part of my rant on Wednesday, and it went like this, basically. It's just like, I don't respect people who go out of their way to talk out of box, like talk out of pocket, talk out of pocket, especially about things they don't know anything about. Just because you got engaged to Randall Emmett doesn't make you an expert on marriage, nor does it make you an expert on how to maintain friendships and judging somebody's character. You're okay with allowing your friend to call Danny Charles Manson while you were engaged to Randall Emmett, and you enable and put over the fact that your friend is dating somebody with a domestic violence background. So I'm sorry if I don't want to hear Lala chime in while Lacey and Jesse are talking about their dynamic with Michelle, because Michelle can't hold herself accountable and properly communicate during conflict. You had to stick your nose into it. Oh, it's taking forever for you to talk. Look in the mirror. Nobody loves the sound of their voice more than Lala Kent. And yeah, you may think you have some witty responses and clapbacks at people. They had this whole teaser trailer of the comment about Danny bringing up something Seth Rogen said on Watch What Happens Live, and Lala's like, well, if Seth Rogen said it, and it must be true. That line didn't hit as much as you thought it did. I heard that as it happened on Part 2 Wednesday, and it just went way. It didn't hit. It fell off a cliff, and it was just not good whatsoever. So, literally, this is going on. The beginning part of this Part 2, we get back into the Michelle and Jesse involved, and Andy brings up this whole SBA loan for $300,000, and Joshie properly points out, because he pays attention and watches the show, as if that's a knock. Like I heard Michelle say that, and they had the lunch break. You know, people were talking to each other outside of the filming studio, wherever they were at in the valley, and Michelle's like, I'm not a liar, and I'm tired of Lacey calling me a liar and a fake. I don't lie. Joshie is so bad. Jessie's the worst. I don't know what kind of Joshie or Lacey I'm going to get. So we get back, and Andy brings up this loan, right? And Joshie points out, okay, now we've had 2 separate occasions where Michelle's gone out of her way to bring her friends who do her dirty work for her to Runyon Canyon. One, Sheena, who does hike. Lala, another one who doesn't hike, but it's also a pot stirrer and a gossiper. So as much as Sheena and Lala are not on a good page, are not on the same page right now, and I got a little treat for you guys as part of the podcast this week. I got an update from Sheena. Since it's Friday, we're going to do a little bit of, has anybody checked on Sheena Fridays here on the SUR Files? And I got a clip from her podcast that she released this morning, and she responds to what Lala had to say in her fake crying breakdown that she did during part 1 last week of the reunion. You're going to hear that at the end of this episode today. So Joshie is like, all right, you're doing this again. You're bringing people who do your dirty work for you, because you can't speak up loud. You can't speak. You can't speak out. You say what you need to say and speak with your chest. And he's like, yeah, you're a liar and you're a cheater, which is also a fact. And Lala's like, you gotta stop calling her a liar, Joshie. I know you do it a lot, but you really gotta stop calling her a liar. And then Joshie's like, well, I would stop if she would stop lying. Like any rational person would do it. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't being condescending to her. And then Michelle's like, I'm not a liar. Show everybody where this $300,000 loan is at. And Joshie is explaining the whole situation, the money or whatever, and Lacey is in the corner and she's like, man, this is awkward. And Michelle's like, please don't call me a liar on this. And then Joshie reiterates, like, she just said it was awkward. And she's like, Michelle's like, okay. Literally, I've seen bad performances at these reunions. Jax, Sandoval. See, guys, I could criticize Sandoval, right? It's so fucking ridiculous. Anyways, I want to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. I want to focus, Joshie, focus. So, with that being said, they're just going back and forth about this whole thing, and then Lacey's again calling out the Mean Girls Club for their misogynistic outlook and the way she goes about her relationship with Joshie, and if she does or doesn't give him money. And she says that's basically it's bullshit to criticize her or just think that their whole relationship is just based on money and that there's no actual feelings there. And they're still running with the whole narratives that they're running in season 2, basically. And, you know, Lacey's explaining her point of view, and Lala's chiming in. Every 2 words that come out of her mouth, Lala's chiming in. Not true, blah, 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 mumbling shit behind her breath with Michelle. Andy, I don't know if you listen to the SUR Files or not. If you do, I'm honored. I appreciate it. I am manifesting one of these days I could be behind the bar and watch what happens live. I think that'd be pretty cool. As I say that, if you're listening to this, I don't know what's going to happen for part 3, but he needs to start pointing out the people who keep talking under their breaths, because it happened a lot during part 2 on Wednesday, and it was really starting to bother me. It's a reunion, man. Say it with your chest. If you have something to say it for the love of God. Not only this stuff with Jesse and Michelle and Lacey, but also towards the end of the episode on Wednesday where Andy asked Danny basically where he's at with his relationship with alcohol, and he's talking about it, right? And he's saying he's getting in a better place, and he claims that he hasn't got this intoxicated since that Mexico trip. And basically Brittany mummers under her mouth, "Oh, Jesse better bring up what happened at Jasmine's wedding." And she did this last year towards Jesse too, which I'm starting to think that this is her retaliation for Jesse and Danny pointing out the fact that she stirs the pot and talks shit behind Nia's back, which is true. She does talk shit behind Nia's back. That's the thing with the reunion, with the side-eyeing and the sighs from Janet and the snarky comments between her and Jason as it goes on. Jason likes to come off as the good guy, and he's without faults, and he has free reign to criticize everybody else on the Amadeus, and his shit doesn't sink, but he sure talks a lot of shit under his breath. Don't you guys notice that, or is that just me? As I bring up Janet and Jason, I want to point out the fact that, hey, I want to give props to Zach and Jasmine for properly calling out both of the Capernas for their hypocrisy when it comes to Jax. And I find the timing of all this to be interesting because I shared a clip on the SUR Files page on TikTok, a clip from their podcast, This Side of the Hill, the other day, where Jan is basically ripping Jax's TMZ interview where he's saying that he's deeply in love, or madly in love, however he phrased it, with Lori KPR. And, she's just ripping him a new one. And then Jason's like, "I'm not an apologist of Jax. Yeah, I drove him to rehab, and what else do I gotta apologize for?" This whole reunion, he just comes off very smug and pompous, and then those two are just having a conversation and being snarky towards the rest of the cast. If you have something to say it. You guys sure love the sound of your own voice during last season's reunion, so why are you guys being so quiet now? And then it's just disingenuous because we get this moment with Danny and Janet where they start crying over the whole topic of the trolling and the death threats and the stuff that they get in social media, which nobody should ever have to deal with in real life. And it was a very emotional moment. It made me, that whole scene made me sad too. And seeing Kristen start to cry as she's remembering and reflecting on the moments she struggled with during her time at Vanderpump Rules when it came to dealing with social media. God knows how bad her mental health was when she got left off from the show. I felt bad. I felt like there was a good moment there. There's some genuine tears before Danny was going to go into apologizing to Janet. Lala again has to stick her nose into it because Andy asked Danny straight up, "Hey, do you want to apologize for adding on or liking things on social media, and et cetera, et cetera?" He was going to say that his situations at first were two different situations, and he was going to apologize and own up to the fact that he shouldn't have done that. But then Lala's just like, the only answer is just yes. Because she has so much ADD that she can't stomach somebody having a genuine thought and a genuine apology, and sometimes people don't answer in five-word sentences like she does. Like, her ADD is so all over the place. She won't even let the guy freaking talk. And again, I don't condone Danny's behavior, but as a human being, if somebody keeps cutting you off every time you speak or have a sigh or have something smart to say every time you say something, you're going to call it out. And I'm glad that he did, because it's bullshit. We're about to have a real moment where you want resolution, right, between Danny and Janet. That was your whole storyline this season, Lala. And again, you have to make it all by yourself. He's about to apologize to the girl, yet you can't keep your mouth shut. And it was not a good look. There was two certain moments for me this part 2 of the reunion that really ticked me off. It was when Danny and Nia were talking about their marriage dynamic, and then Lala started to chime in again, and she's like, Nia, I felt bad for you watching it, and there was moments I wanted to go through the TV screen and deck him for you. And they're talking about Danny and Nia are talking about their marriage dynamics and their communication flaws and getting to the root of some of the more pertinent issues than this whole fucking drinking storyline that nobody ever wants to seem to move on from. So we're getting to some real issues that I had more on the whole Danny and Nia side, is how they speak to each other and their dynamics and their communication styles is just way out of whack. I wanted to hear what's going on, but we have to hear the voice of Lala Kent every fucking 3 minutes during this reunion. Shut the fuck up. It takes a lot for me to get to that point where I feel like I have to say that out loud towards somebody, but it was going on and on. Every topic, Lala was inserting herself on every little fucking thing that was going on. It was just embarrassing. And then the second thing, and I've had time to process this, and I really like Jasmine, so I don't want anybody to take away from what I'm about to say next to think that I have anything against her or anything like that, because that's not the case. I've had time to sit down and process everything that she was saying. I was very disappointed in the way Jasmine went about lashing out at Kristen and Luke and Danny and Nia when they were explaining communication issues and they're bringing up sleep deprivation and stuff with the kids. I understand her attention and I understand her frustration. She was getting upset because she wanted them just to own up for their behavior and the way they're speaking to each other in their couples instead of just talking about the kids the entire time. I get it. We all watch Vanderpump Rules, right? How many of you guys done eye rolls whenever Jax would be like, I'm a work in progress. I need some serious therapy. I need to work on myself. I get it. When you hear something over and over again, you're not seeing any change. Yeah, that can be frustrating. I feel like there's a time and a place for certain things, but if you're just murmuring under your breath, I'm so sick of the kid shit. If I'm so sick of the kid shit, you need to say that out loud right out of the gate. And I know it was festering up inside of her. And I really like Jasmine. I know for a fact that she has a good heart and she comes from a good place. And I know she cares a lot about a lot of these people in this cast. I feel like the hate that she's been getting the last 48 hours has been very cruel and unfair. While I was disappointed in the moment when it happened, I understood her frustration and I hear her. What's unfortunate is the fact that, again, you have somebody talking out of pocket for something they know nothing about. Yeah, you don't have any kids. Technically, it's really not your place to speak on how it affects people that are married or have kids in general. Again, I don't think she had negative intentions with her lashing out. It was the heat of the moment. I think these reunions do bring out the worst out of people in certain moments and say things out of pocket when it's not necessary. But, it happened. She got it out. They had the conversation, and that's where it's at. And she had to put out. I felt bad for the point that Jasmine really had to even make a whole statement about the whole fucking thing. And it's it's unfortunate that her opinion is now becoming a source of controversy. Was I disappointed in that moment when it happened? Absolutely. Did I feel at that moment that comment was unnecessary? Absolutely. But I'm not going to come on here and defame her character and say she's a horrible person and a horrible friend because she's lashing out at the married couples who have kids. I didn't think it was a good look in that moment. I put it out on my X page when I was live tweeting the reunion. And again, I like Jasmine. I was disappointed in the moment. I understood the point she was trying to express, but I just felt like all that was just unnecessary, just to be honest with you. Let's see, we got to get into the Kristen and Luke of it all before we get to the final part of the pod today. Look, I was so happy for Kristen and Luke with everything that happened for season 2. I am generally just, I want to say gobsmacked, or just, I don't really know how to contextualize like what's going on between the two of them. It's so odd, it's uncomfortable, it's weird. Kristen admitted that she has this guard up in this defense mechanism whenever she's in a relationship with somebody because of her past and the guys that she used to be with. As bad as Brittany's picker is, it's starting to look like Kristen's picker is just not as good. And I hate saying that because there's a lot of things about Luke that I like, that he's down to earth. He's a Midwest dude. Obviously, he's a good father. I saw good things out of Kristen and Luke's relationship. I put them over this whole season for how honest and vulnerable and raw they were about their whole situation and being first-time parents and the whole postpartum journey. I learned a lot watching their relationship dynamic this season. I really did, of what to do and what not to do, right? So this is a big point of contention. And, Andy asked a lot of good questions about what was going on in their relationship. And, Chris is saying that they have done much couples therapy together after filming because, they still are lashing out at each other in these moments. And it's just like going back to communication styles. When shit is difficult and you're going through a shitstorm, look, this is real life. Life is going to throw you shitstorms. There's going to be things that are going to be out of your control. You're going to snap at somebody at the wrong time for the wrong reason. And we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, right? And I'm not expecting anybody on this show to be perfect either. And Kristen is, I wouldn't say she's making excuses, but she explained that, Luke has this nonchalant exterior to him and that he's just blunt with how he feels about certain things, whether you like it or not. He really doesn't give a shit. And I think he gave off that vibe watching part 2 of this reunion. And, Annie's asking them, why did you guys decide to deny going to watch What Happens Live together? Just off the cuff, right? And I thought that was a good question. Because it was strange seeing him and Schwartz there, but not Kristen. So they say that their nanny was out of the country. Something was going on with his mom. And he didn't want a cross-country trip to be stressful for him. So he thought it would be better off for them not to do it in general. And then Kristen went by herself. And I think she was on with Ariana Bierman from X-Gen NYC. By the way, my new Bravo crush, Ariana Bierman, that girl is fucking hot, man. Like, holy moly. She is a smoke show. Woo-wee, shucky ducky quack quack. Man, as Booker T would say. Anyways, Kristen and Luke, they get questioned about their communication style. Andy's like, this doesn't sound good. Like, Luke keeps bringing these certain remarks about not wanting to be in California and it's not sitting right with Kristen, and him in a roundabout way saying, no, I wasn't planning to break up with Kristen over her postpartum journey or calling off the engagement or anything like that. Something's off. I don't like their communicative styles that's going on right now. Kristen has made her mistakes, but at least she owns it, and she's authentic and, again, honest with the fact that she does have her guard up and her walls up, and maybe some paranoia comes on from her past that gets the best of her sometimes. And I hope they work it out because they got a beautiful daughter. I don't want to see them split, but they're on 2 different pages. And I just have to say that just watching from this part 2 of the reunion, they're not on the same page. And I was very, very excited for them coming off of what they saw with that beautiful engagement in Hawaii last season and to where they are now. To think that this much has changed in their relationship dynamic, it's just not a good look. And is it really that bad that he doesn't want to be in California this bad? And, Chris like, well, we're not going to be living in Colorado all year long. And then there was something on the after show where Lucas was like very certain his plans were moving to Tennessee. We're going to Nationals and plans are already being made. So I don't know what their future looks like. I don't know if they're going to stay together unless they fix the way they communicate with each other. I mean, again, you could give Luke credit for being honest in situations. And, Brittany's trying to force him to say yes. But if he doesn't feel that way in that situation, then it's just not genuine. I feel bad for Kristen during certain moments during that conversation with Andy, but it's just like, wow, it's just, you could tell that something's off and they're not on the same page. So curious to see what else comes up for part 3 when it comes to Kristen and Luke. Again, it's not looking good on Luke so far for the fact that he did not watch this season back at all. And then I want to go back really quick and circle back to that whole thing with Kristen and Zach and Janet and Jason. As much as I like Brittany as a person and I enjoy her podcast and stuff like that, she is not doing herself any favors during this reunion. I mean, outside of her ripping Jack's a new one in the beginning part of this reunion, most of it has been her deflecting her behavior and deflecting every little thing that Janet does. Janet does absolutely nothing wrong in Brittany's eyes. And I said this out on TikTok, I totally get Kristen and Zach's frustration when it comes to Brittany when she constantly defends Janet at every cost. And, like, you would think, picture this, right? Picture Ariana being friends with Jason and Janet, right? They are friends in real life, right? So let's say that there's a get together with friends at the Capernas, right? And Ariana's there, and Tom Sandoval shows up and is there because he's there to pick up something. Who knows? Maybe a letter or something revolving them selling the house, right? Let's compare this because this whole situation is. The point of contention was that Kristen and Zach pointed out the hypocrisy with Janet and Jason where they'll talk shit about Jackson, et cetera, et cetera. But if Kristen and Zach were to hang out with Jackson or were cordial or nice to him in front of Brittany would have an issue with it. So going back to this example I'll make here, let's picture Ariana is at a party with Jason and Janet, and I'll come Tom Sandoval, not saying that Tom and Aria would be talking to each other at this party, but he's only there to pick up an envelope or something regarding the sale of their house or God knows what. Whatever the scenario could come on with this, but follow along with me. It's kind of the same thing. It's just not a good look. You go, I wait to shit talk the guy on your podcast and on the show and stuff like that. Yet you have him over for Christmas and you're saying that his behavior towards Brittany subtly one way or another is not as bad as Danny's behavior because you have a vendetta against him. I'm sorry, Brittany, as frustrated as you got at Danny in Mexico about that whole scheming thing with Jackson trying to take down Danny and Nia, it's starting to look that way. And I'm gonna wrap it up with this as my review for part 2. I'm gonna wrap it up with this. Brittany just admitted that you don't like Nia. And the reason I say that, because as Danny is explaining his reasoning and where he's at with his relationship, she brings up this whole thing about, Jesse needs to bring up what happened at Jasmine and Melissa's wedding. Why did she do that? Why did she speak under her mouth, under her breath? Because it's a production tactic. She's been doing this a long time. And she only brought it up because we're going to figure out what's going to happen next week about what supposedly happened at Jasmine and Melissa's wedding regarding Danny. And she's like, well, I heard he did some crazy shit. Brittany, for the love of God, if you have something to say it with your chest. Say that you don't like Danny, say you don't like Nia, and you're out to get them. Because why would you bring that up? Unless you're a pot stirrer too. I'm not going to blame Alex Baskin and Bravo for choosing to leave that hanging going into the part 3 of the reunion. It's called the hook in the television and media business. I know how this works. That's good strategy. I mean, there was a commercial advertisement going into this part 2 of the reunion that we were going to hear what was going to happen with that. But this happened before on Vanderpump Rules. I forgot what the scenario was, but they teased something going into part 2, but we had to wait to part 3 to hear it. You know, this is not anything new. I know how TV works. So it's a production tactic. You're stirring shit up to get people into part 3. And you just won't admit to yourself that you hate Nia's guts and that you don't like Danny, and you're going to bring up anything you can to deflect. And while we want conflict resolution, right, for this reunion, you're going to bring this up, and this is going to be a whole fucking shitstorm on part 3. God knows what's going to happen next. And, yeah, Brittany, it's just not a good look right now. It's just not. All in all, that's my thoughts for part 2 of the reunion for the Valley season 3. Let me know how you guys felt about it in the comment section on YouTube, and also anywhere you're checking this out on the podcast feed as well. As we wrap it up here, I want to send out a couple plugs and shout outs. As always, thank you guys for the support of the SUR Files. You can follow me on X at the Hoots Podcast. Instagram, Josh Lopez Music. Also, I'm on Threads at Josh Lopez Music if you want to check that out. And new episodes of the SUR Files drop each and every single Friday anywhere you get your podcasts from. The home of the SUR Files is Odyssey. Make sure to hit that like button and smash the subscribe button on YouTube at the SUR Files. And most importantly, follow us on TikTok at SUR Files. We're close to 2 million likes and close to 20,000 followers, which is pretty cool. Appreciate the support, everybody. Remember, folks, be the authentic product that is yourself. Remember, nobody dictates the pace of your life but yourself and the man upstairs. I'm Joshie. This has been episode 22 of the SUR Files. As I say goodbye, here is Sheena's response to Lala crying and breaking down during part 1 of last week's reunion from the Valley season 3. Remember, folks, you'll hear a lot of stuff on these shows, but the facts and the receipts will always be held in the SUR Files. Talk to you next week. Peace.
That, because it feels like a Vanderpump Rules reunion when you're just like sobbing, and then Andy Cohen's like, let's switch gears. Well, speaking of reunions, a lot of questions, not only on Instagram, have come through, but a lot of people in my life have been texting me and asking what my reaction was to Lala talking about our beef on the reunion. How do you feel about what she said regarding your friendship? Do you think she was genuinely upset, etc., etc.? So, yeah, I didn't get into this last week because Kiki and Christina hadn't seen the episode yet, and so I figured I would just take this week and go into it all by myself. The part that really stood out to me the most was when she said she doesn't recognize me anymore. And honestly, good, because I have put boundaries in place for the first time, like, in my life, the first time in this friendship, and I'm not the same person I was a few years ago. I'm no longer the girl who had no boundaries, who let people walk all over her, you know, treat me poorly, and then just accepted it because I wanted to keep the peace, and I'm a people pleaser, and I cared more about other people's feelings than my own. This wasn't about one isolated incident, but it was a pattern that went on for years. I mean, and even now, I'm continuing to learn things. I'm continuing to learn about things that were happening behind the scenes that were hurtful and damaging to both me and my relationships. And I've said this on the podcast before, you know, the issue isn't that Lala has changed, it's that I have. I really don't feel like she has changed. I've done a lot of work on myself I've been in therapy for years, and one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that not every friendship is meant to last forever. You know, some relationships become unhealthy, and sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away. You have to, you know, choose yourself. And I do not wish her any ill will. I genuinely hope one day we can get to a cordial place where we can coexist and our girls can have play dates without any awkwardness. I don't like carrying negative energy with anyone. I'm also like, I'm never going to keep my daughter back, like hold her back from one of her best friends. If she wants a play date, we will make it happen. I know Brock and Lisa have been texting over the past week to try and find a time to get the girls together. But like, this isn't about refusing to repair the friendship. I tried many, many times. And I just feel like there comes a point when you realize that you've exhausted every avenue and you have to accept that someone just wasn't capable of being the kind of friend that you needed. I don't believe that that friendship was healthy. And I don't believe it was rooted in someone who truly wanted the best for me. And that's hard to accept because I felt differently for years. And I sacrificed a lot for her. And it broke my heart. So her heart may be broken, but her actions caused that. And I know people are asking me like, well, why can't you forgive her? I can, and I have. Like, I saw this on, I think it was like a Jay Shetty podcast or something. It was like, apology accepted, access denied. And I live by that. I have to do what is best for me, and that friendship was only hurting me. And that's not the kind of friendship I want to be in. I also saw some questions asking my thoughts on Lala, saying you took it to the streets. First of all, I don't like when she talks like that. I don't like those references. It's like, if we really want to talk about who brought it, you know, I don't think that was me, if I'm being honest. And please correct me if I'm wrong, for those of you who have been following along. But I feel like the first time people started questioning whether there was a rift between us was when my book came out and one of my closest friends didn't acknowledge or support it publicly for over a week. That's what got people talking. So it was almost like your lack of taking it to the streets, as she likes to say, is what took it there. I was doing press almost every day at that time, so naturally I was being asked about our friendship. And the reality is I was trying to protect it, not just behind the scenes, but publicly too. And it made it hard because, like, behind the scenes, I reached out repeatedly. I called her. I tried to make plans. I even carved out a time to see her when I was home for, 24, 36 hours in the middle of my book tour, because I wanted to have those conversations behind closed doors. I wanted to be able to finish my book tour and to say, things are good. And there even was a moment during one of my live shows where I called her on stage to dispel the notion that there was any rift. You know, I was trying to protect her publicly while she was hurting me privately. And I just wanted the audience to think everything was good. I was so thankful when she didn't answer, because it would have been a little awkward. But when she didn't answer, I just kind of laughed it off and commented, like, oh, it's close to bedtime for the kids. And I tried to reassure everyone that there wasn't an issue, because I genuinely wanted to keep our friendship intact. And looking back, that was actually like a really lonely experience. Here I was in the middle of like one of the biggest moments of my career, standing on stage and then sitting through interview after interview, trying to explain why one of my closest friends couldn't find the time to support me. It's like, while I was defending her and trying to convince everyone, and maybe even myself, that everything was fine, she couldn't support me. And it was very frustrating. And then I saw Lala did like an Instagram live, or maybe it was a story or Amazon, whatever it was, and people asked what was going on between us. And when they asked her that, she had an opportunity to keep it private or take accountability. Instead, she said Sheena is Sheena-ing, and was just kind of brushed it off like everything will be fine. It's just Sheena-ing. And that only fueled the negative narratives people already love to project onto me, which was very frustrating. And even after that, I still didn't tell the real story. I never publicly explained what was actually behind our falling out until Lala chose to discuss it on her podcast. And that's when she framed it as though our issues were simply because she didn't post about my book, that my expectations were impossible for her to meet, and that she could never make me happy, and she didn't understand why I just couldn't be happy. Like, I'm very happy. Not today, because I've been sad this week, but in general, especially at that time, even with everything I put in the book, like, I was happy. I was proud of myself. It was one of the biggest things I accomplished. So, I don't know. I guess I feel like this just reduced a much deeper and much more painful pattern in our friendship into me sounding like this spoiled, ungrateful toddler throwing a tantrum over an Instagram post. And like, no, that wasn't the truth. At that point, I felt like I had every right to tell my side of the story, and I wasn't the one who made our friendship public. I was responding after my character had already been publicly defined in a way that I don't believe was accurate. You know, if someone's going to tell the whole world why your friendship ended, and in doing so misrepresent what actually happened, I think it's fair that you tell your own truth. So, another question about